Good morning. Welcome to 10 Years Hence. Our speaker this morning is Scott Mereness, President of Lippert Components. A 1994 graduate of Miami University, Scott Mereness has helped lead Lippert Components for 23 years, with the last 8 years serving as president of the company. Scott has also had a great effect on the RV industry itself, serving on several committees and just recently being elected to RVIA's board of directors. Scott previously served as a board member for the Samaritan Center of Elkhart. Throughout his career, Scott has built relationships with many industry leaders as well as several government officials and agencies that interact with the RV industry. Scott has also been an integral part of bolstering Elkhart's Ethos Science Center, serving as a board member for the last year. Scott is a dedicated husband and father and lives in Granger, Indiana, with his wife, Kristen, and his 3 daughters, Caroline, Anna Kate, and Ashley. Please join me in welcoming Scott Mereness.
Thank you very much. So today we're going to talk, you guys are going to learn a little bit about the RV industry. You're going to learn about Lippert Components. And then towards the end, we'll get to trends within our business as well as the RV industry. So we'll talk about how we look at the industry and our company over the next 10 years. So first and foremost, Lippert Components is headquartered in Elkhart, Indiana, just east of here. We are the #1 supplier to the RV industry. And not to steal some facts out of a future slide, but 90% of all RVs made in the United States are made in Elkhart County. So a lot of people don't know that, but when you look at the RV industry, over 500,000 units were built over the last few years on an annual basis. This year will be closer to 550, almost 600,000 units. 90% of those units are built in the county next to St. Joe County. So one of the things that I'm going to skip to are core values. So about 8 years ago, we started a strategic planning process that first and foremost was something that was always embedded in our culture within the company, but we had never written it down. And the power of actually going through a strategic planning process, we do it annually now. One of the things that came out of one of the first sessions was defining our core values. And something over the 20 plus years of my career at Lippert, so backing up just a minute, my first year at Lippert Components, I started out as a welder, graduated from Miami of Ohio, came out of the business school at Miami, and got my hands dirty learning the business. And for those of you, Notre Dame's a prestigious university. For those of you who think that, like I did, think that I was too good to go to work for a manufacturing company and have to work out on the line as a welder, it's a great way to learn the business, and you always need to be humble enough to say, hey, if I'm going to be successful within the organization, I need to learn all aspects of the business, including something that typically you might not think that you need to do. So that's an important part there. But our team and our core values, even going back 20 years ago, when I first started with the company, we were 400 employees and about $80 million in revenue. The Lippert family sold the company in 1997 to a company called Drew Industries. And from 97 until now, we've been a publicly traded company. We renamed Drew Industries to LCI Industries about 1.5 years ago. So getting back to core values, passionate about winning and positive attitude. The first and last core value there up on the slide, these are really our cornerstones in terms of when you look at the culture of our company and you look at the team members that we have within our organization, everybody on the team exudes passion for winning and a positive attitude. We hire a lot of leaders out of college campuses. a lot of athletes, captains of their sports teams, presidents of their fraternities or sororities. And so we've got a lot of people that were already proven leaders before they came on board within the company. Caring about people, going back one slide, caring about people was really something that more recently we started to enhance for various reasons. First and foremost, we are one of the largest employers in Elkhart County. We employ almost 8,000 employees in Elkhart County, and for those of you who don't know, Elkhart County is not really that big of a county when it comes to the working population. So now we are the number 3 employer in Elkhart County behind our 2 largest customers, Thor and Forest River. So caring about people and the mantra of making lives better is really something that we started a couple years ago as being the premier choice of employment for the jobs that we are able to offer. We want to be able to attract the best and the brightest, whether it's a production employee or whether it's an executive that's working on more strategic elements of our business. We need to be able to attract top talent within the community. So with the caring about everyone matters and caring about people core value, one of the things that we launched 2 years ago was 100,000 hours of community service initiative. That was just internally across the entire organization. So we've got 65 plants across the country. Every one of our plants was involved in it. We created an app like you see here on the screen. Everybody was able to log their community service hours. They were not paid by the company to donate their time, but this was something that we set as an annual strategic objective a couple years ago to give back to our communities in which we live and work collectively 100,000 hours worth of community service. Next we've got a small video that talks about the second phase of 100,000 hours, which is
when we
the community.
look at our hands, what do we see? Do we see power, healing, love? Because with every move, we choose to build, to grow, or to hold. Together, our hands can transform communities that were once broken, can offer hope to the hopeless, and show one another a better way. Together, we create our own world. Our hands aren't just hands. They're opportunities. Acts of Service was formed to make joining hands possible between the businesses and individuals seeking to volunteer their time, energy, and resources, and the nonprofit organizations that serve our community. Find out how you can use your hands for good and volunteer at actsofservice.com. For good and serve our community, energy, and resources.
I think we can go to there we go. So just a few more comments on the acts of service. So the first year we launched a program, 100,000 hours within Lippert Components. Second year was 200,000 hours, which is going on this year. 200,000 hours, which would be the company, Lippert at 100,000 hours, and then other partners, our customers, other suppliers within Elkhart County who have joined in, saw the power of what we did a year ago, and they want to be a part of it. So we're super excited. I think that story continues to unfold. We're excited about where that goes over the next few years, but suffice it to say that other people within the community have noticed. They want to be a part of it. It's been an extremely powerful thing within our employee groups. We do community service days side by side, and culture culture and giving back to the community is not something that people take lightly. Lots of millennials, and you'll hear me talk about this later, and certainly a lot of students here today are close to being in that category. Their core values match up quite a bit to giving back to the community, having the time to be able to be experiential, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But certainly our core values and giving back to the community have been a building block of our culture, and it continues to build on itself. So we're super excited about the types of things that we're doing in the community. Again, we talked about leadership. We want leaders to have some experience coming into the organization, but we also build out their leadership while they're at Lippert. We have 13 dedicated leadership professionals that mainly are training our frontline employees. We have over 800 frontline supervisors training 8,000 plus frontline employees, team members. And so, one of the problems that we recognized a few years ago was that the best welder, the best sewer, the best production employee was not always the best leader to be leading production employees. A lot of these people had either not graduated from high school, or if they had graduated from high school, they had never been given any type of leadership training. So giving people leadership training at Lippert Components has allowed us to capitalize on treating our employees better, having higher retention rates within our hiring practices, and overall having a better, more enjoyable work experience by making sure that the leaders that are managing and coaching the frontline employees are really doing what we want them to do, and they have the tools and education to be able to do that. Again, leadership qualities: motivator, servant leader, humble, coachable, effective communicator, and courageous. These are things that we train those frontline leaders to be able to go out and lead. Our reputation, again, we're number one supplier within the RV industry. We're known as customer-centric, highly responsive. A lot of our customers come to us with R&D projects because we're a go-to supplier, where we're known as the supplier that's able to bring their ideas to life when it comes to an R&D type situation. The last one, we're a good corporate citizen in our communities, give a lot back, and we talked about that with the 100,000 hours. Operations were highly efficient. One of the things about the RV industry, again, 500 to 600,000 units built, lots of very different from the automotive industry, lots of variation, lots of different floor plans, lots of different brands. It would almost be described today as the automotive industry back in either the 70s or the 80s. You've got, probably arguably too many brands, even within the big companies, too many brands and too many floor plans. But that's the nature of the situation that we work in. So we consider ourselves a world-class job shop. That's kind of internally how we call ourselves, a world-class job shop. And what does that mean? We have to be very good and responsive at producing very low runs in terms of the quantity of parts. We have to be very flexible in terms of the changeovers. That does not allow us to always have tooling and robotics and flexibility as far as being able to stamp out millions of parts or hundreds of thousands of parts like the automotive industry. So one thing that we really feel like we're good at is producing a lot of parts as the number one supplier, but doing it in low quantity runs and having very quick changeovers as far as our production process. Financial performance. So again, I mentioned when I first started with the company, which is a great story when you think about the last 25 years. The company, when I first started, was $80 million in sales. Sold the company 2 years after, the family sold the company 2 years after I joined. We were $80 million in sales at the time. This year we will do $2.7 billion in revenue, give or take. We had 400 employees at the time that I first came to the company. Today we have over 11,000 employees with now 5 facilities in Europe, and 1 in Canada and 2 in Mexico. So we're a global footprint, but the amount of growth and the team, again, I've been here pretty much the entire growth story, but the team has experienced lots of growth, lots of changes within the organization, and we'll talk about the continued trend for Lippert as far as the next 10 years and what that means for us and some of the challenges that we'll get to. But last year we did $2.1 billion in revenue combined, and aftermarket was $171 million, which was a new segment that we started focusing on back in 2012. Again, we are an RV supplier, but I would like you to think about the company as being 2/3 RV related in North America and 1/3 what we call everything else. Everything else would be aftermarket, international revenue, adjacent industries. Examples of adjacent industries, we are the #1 school bus window supplier. We have every single school bus manufacturer under our wing in terms of being our customer. Cargo trailers, horse trailers, emergency vehicles, UPS and FedEx trucks. We supply lots of components and content. We call it content, which is revenue, into those industries. So when you look at that 3rd row down, OEM, adjacent industries, that really is somewhat of a catch-all. It might be specialty vehicles that are similar to an RV, but slightly different as far as the type of vehicle that we sell into. Again, this is just an example over the last 7 years of how we've grown our non-OEM towable RV sales. So $146 million growing to $779 million. We want to diversify the company, and this is an example of what we've been able to do over the last 7 years to diversify the company. Again, the stereotype is that we are an RV component supplier, and almost 100%. That's not really the case. Again, it's 2/3, 1/3, the way that we look at our business. This slide here is just talking about how we've been able to grow the company. And again, this only goes back to 2013, but we've done 50 acquisitions in the last 20 years. Acquisitions since 2013 represents 22% of our consolidated sales growth. Our organic revenue growth has been 31%, and we are blessed to have industry tailwinds over the last 4 years that have propelled an additional 47% worth of revenue growth in terms of taking us from a $1 billion company in 2013 to a $2 billion company 4 years later. This slide here, and I'm not going to go through it because it's pretty complicated the way you guys would look at it, but this gives you an idea of either new product introductions or acquisitions. Most of the names and descriptions on here would be acquisitions that we've done over the last 4 years. Typically, we're doing 4 to 5 deals a year. The average acquisition size would be somewhere in the neighborhoods of $30 to $50 million worth of revenue. Usually we're paying one-time sales or slightly less than one-time sales, which usually works out to about six times trailing EBITDA would be a valuation, a typical valuation model as far as our acquisition purchase price calculation. Products that we sell, very diverse. We are a very diverse company. Towable chassis is about $500 million out of our $2.7 billion. Windows, furniture, mattresses, laminated products, trailer axles, leveling systems, awnings. These are all products that largely are made in Elkhart County. We don't do a whole lot of importing of finished products. So believe it or not, the majority of this manufacturing happens just 20 to 30 minutes away to the east. So this is for those of you who are not super familiar with RVs, this is a cutaway picture of a fifth wheel. So the fifth wheel is designated with a gooseneck that would fit in the back of a pickup truck. But kind of going around the RV, these would be products and bubbles of products that we supply to the industry. So very diverse. I would categorize core competencies being welding, painting, metal fabricating, aluminum machining, sewing, and furniture upholstery is a huge product line for us and growing quickly. Motion technology, slide outs in and out, leveling up and down, and more recently electronics, and we'll talk about electronics towards the end of the presentation. This right here, so we're trying to automate. Again, we talked about the tightness of the labor market in Elkhart County. This would be a brand new example of an automation cell that we recently put into our plant in Elkhart. So why do we invest in automation like that? Again, the key there is that the labor market in Elkhart County is so tight. Unemployment is one of the lowest in the United States. Lippert has to invest in automation to be able to take those employees that are displaced from that automation cell. We were able to free up about 20 employees there. But we take those 20 employees and we put them in other parts of the plant. So it's never, right now with the success of the company, it's never about letting employees go as far as automation goes. It's about allowing us to ease the burden of trying to find the next new employee. We're trying to automate what we have in our factory so that we can use those existing employees in other parts of the factory that we're doing. That particular cell was about $5.5 million, just went into production 3 weeks ago, and is going to have about an 18-month payback. So, we're doing as many of those projects as we can shake a stick at. We've spent on a trailing 12-month basis, we spent over $100 million worth of CapEx back into the company, largely on various automation projects like this. Competitive advantages within Lippert. Our leadership team, including Jason Lippert, who's our CEO, I'm president, he's CEO. We've both been with the company 24 years, working together. We can finish each other's sentences. Our top 20 leaders average 17 years. Not a whole lot of publicly traded companies can say that their leadership teams have been intact for that many years. You see a lot of turnover at the CEO level and people totally displacing their senior leadership teams. One of the successes of us going from $80 million to $2.7 billion in 20 years has been the consistency of our team as far as cohesiveness. Just a quick slide, 66 facilities largely across the United States and gives you a little bit of idea as far as our presence in Europe. International presence, so this would be where our customers are present. Again, most of our revenue goes into North America, but as we continue to grow our international business, these are some of the countries and continents as far as where our ex-US revenue is going. So now I'm going to switch gears. Now I'm going to start talking about the industry. That was a very quick overview on Lippert and where we are. Now I'm going to start giving you a little bit better idea of the RV industry in North America. So this particular ad is part of the Go RVing campaign. What's unique about the RVIA board of directors, they have a Go RVing campaign where every paying member of the RVIA Industry Association pays dues. That creates a marketing fund for RVIA to market on behalf of the entire industry. So it's agnostic to brands, different than the, let's say, car commercials where Ford's got commercials, GM's got commercials. We advertise as an industry on behalf of the entire industry, and we pool all those marketing dollars together to talk about the RV lifestyle, the camping lifestyle, and we think it's the most efficient use of marketing dollars to be able to reach our target consumers. So this is a brand new Go RVing ad that is just launching in 2018.
Why do grown-ups have to lose their childhood? Staring at their phones instead of at the stars? Running on a treadmill instead of running free? Making appointments, not memories. I thought growing up meant making my own rules. I thought it meant being a kid and getting away with it. I want to crawl, hike, and jump. I want to wipe my hands on my pants. I want to wake up with the sunrise, not my alarm. I want to use my outdoor voice. That's the kind of grown-up I want to be. Let's bring back wildhood.
Again, like you see there, agnostic to brand, but again, really playing in the sense of outdoors and the enjoyment that you can have as a family using an RV to share experiences. And certainly the younger population within the United States is gravitating towards this type of product as far as enjoyment goes. So just some quick Elkhart County facts. Elkhart is the #1 patent-producing county in Indiana. These are a little bit on the Cliff Clavin side, but I'm going to give you a few stats here. In 2016, Elkhart County led Indiana in job growth and ranked #10 in the entire nation. So when we talk about the tightness of the labor market, the RV industry is the reason why Elkhart County leads Indiana in job growth. The county leads Indiana in job growth as a percentage and ranked #10 in the entire nation. Again, pretty impressive. More than 30 factories are currently under construction in Elkhart. Like I said before, 90% of the RVs are built in northern Indiana. That gives us the title of the RV capital of the world. Elkhart County has 36 robots per 1,000 workers, which is #1 in the nation per capita. Again, per 1,000 employees. 30% of the U.S. robotic installations are in Michigan, Ohio, and Indiana in that order. So again, the per capita ranking is basically given us #1 as a small county status. The Detroit area where the automotive industry is still #1 in terms of total robots, but when you look at it on a per capita basis, Elkhart County is #1. And Elkhart is known for more than RVs, home to companies like manufactured homes, cargo trailers, and pontoon boats. And again, some of you may know the DCO family or see the DCO family on some of the buildings around Notre Dame. He was the founder of Skyline. Art was the founder of Skyline, and lots of entrepreneurs have come out of Elkhart County and been very successful. We've got Pete Legal, who started Forest River. He sold his company 10 years later to Berkshire Hathaway for almost $1 billion. We've got, more recently, we've got Ron Fennick, Don Clark, and Bill Fennick, who sold their company to Winnebago for $550 million. And then Thor is another multi-billion-dollar company that recently relocated to Elkhart County. Again, we just talked about that. One key takeaway, 3 of the top 4 companies in Elkhart County are multi-billion-dollar corporations. 3 of them are publicly traded. Forest River is Berkshire Hathaway owned. These 4 companies, including LCI Industry, our company, employ more than 35,000 employees in the county. This would be since 1980, so on the far left of the slide shows number of U.S. households that own an RV. Again, for those of you who don't know, there's about 110 million households within the United States. So 5 million households owned an RV in 1980. Today, that number has doubled to nearly 10 million households. So that's the long-term strength of the RV industry over the last 40 years. There's 55 million active campers. So the leftmost circle is the total camping market, 55 million active campers, of which 22% camp in an RV. So the 60% that tent camp and the 17% that cabin camp would be really the target market to be able to take that 77% of tent and cabin campers and try to get them to camp in an RV as opposed to the other ways that they camp. So the active market, if you think about only 10 million campers today own an RV, we want of the 55 million, we want more of that share. Millennials are fueling our growth within an industry. It's currently 31% of the population, 38% of all campers, and many of the oldest millennials, which would be in their mid-30s, are just beginning to gravitate towards purchasing an RV. We're seeing many first-time buyers that are within the millennial segment. This is a little bit dated. It's a couple years old, but the main thing that I like about this slide, the red line shows boomers. The red line shows millennials. The gray line at the top shows boomers. And from 2010 to 2015, millennials have gained 10% of relevance within share of the new light vehicle buyer market. So you see a significant shift in just a 5-year period of how quickly millennials have become relevant in terms of consumer discretionary items. And we feel like there's a high correlation between consumer discretionary items like RVs and automobiles. We think that as they continue to get into their earning years and the relevance of their population demographic, we feel that that's going to continue to propel the industry over the next 10 years. It's a little bit hard. This slide is a little bit hard to understand, but on the left side shows 2011. Boomers represent 76 million, millennials 79 million. And by 2030, boomers decline to 56 million, so 20 million a population decline. But the millennials continue to be the largest population segment by 2030. So millennials really are one of the key focuses of the RV industry going forward. And thinking about how millennials will use RVs, what types of features and products they're going to want within their RVs, and some of the other trends that are outside the RV industry that become relevant. This right here talks about Gen X and Gen Y. Currently, we're kind of in the rightmost part of the green circle, but really what that shows is over the next 10 years, from 2018 to almost 2028, we're going to add a million Gen X and Gen Y population per year for the next 10 years. So again, keep in mind that the current RV market is about 600,000 units. Out of the million people each year that out of the Gen X, Gen Y, again, these are people that are 35 to almost 50 years old. That 10 million population growth cumulatively, if we can get just 50,000 of the 1 million additional people within this demographic each year, that's enough to continue to propel the industry by about 10%. So we've got demographics on our side. Millennials are on our side. The Gen X and Gen Y population growth over the next 10 years, definitely on our side, adding 10 million people within that age segment over the next 10 years. So even though boomers had been our biggest segment and had been the most relevant population segment of the last 20 years, Gen X and Gen Y to a lesser extent, but millennials to a larger extent will be the customer of the future. So one of the things that we're doing to appeal to younger buyers, we bought a company 3 years ago called Innovation Design Solutions. And IDS, this company out of Detroit, was making what we consider a home automation system for an RV. And here's a quick video as to what that looks like.
Honey, it's getting a little warm. Could you put the awning down for me?
No problem. Nice.
Hey, you locked up, right?
Well, it should be locked now.
Hey, can you kill the lights?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks.
It's getting a little cool out. Should we warm up the RV?
Yeah, I can do that.
Hey, babe, how are we doing on the water?
We're good.
Okay.
Plenty.
Okay. Hey, kids, time for bed. Okay, guys, lights are going out.
So this particular product called One Control is something that we've been selling since we bought IDS 3 years ago, and that's Gen 1. Gen 2, I've got, let's see here. So this is Gen 2. We launched this in Louisville at the National RV Trade Show in November. This really takes what you just saw. What you just saw was Wi-Fi capability. So all the functions you had to be within Wi-Fi range of your coach. So it ran off of a Wi-Fi router within your RV. This particular product, which we call Gen 2 of the One Control, now adds cellular connectivity to be able to do it just from your phone anywhere in the world. You you can do some of the same things. So this actually talks about customer service in terms of cellular connected, but this is the Gen 2 system of One Control.
Meet the Jones family. They're excited for their maiden voyage with their new fifth wheel, which they've affectionately named Wally. They've rented a campsite on the beach for a week, and after months of planning, they're ready to go. Halfway there, they spend the night at a campground. In the morning, Dad tries to retract the slide-out rooms, but nothing happens. Now what? He can't tow Wally down the highway with his slides out. Dad tries troubleshooting himself, looking on internet forums, pushing buttons, but nothing works. After wasting half the day, he finally gives in and tries to get an appointment at the nearest service center. But they're booked solid for weeks. The dealer where he bought Wally? No help being 300 miles away. Finally, Dad gets a hold of a mobile service tech. 3 hours and hundreds of dollars later, he informs Dad that the slide-outs weren't receiving ample power and fixes the problem in 2 minutes. An entire day of vacation lost, all because of a simple issue. Meet the Thompsons. These RV veterans are also leaving their vacation, but no worries, they have One Control. Lippert Components' connected cellular RV control system, the mission control for the Thompsons RV. The Thompsons arrive at their campground and Dad tries to extend his awning and slide-outs, but something's wrong. Luckily, Dad's One Control app is directly connected to all of his RV's LCI parts and immediately pings Dad's phone with a notification. One Control recognized a low-voltage scenario and instructed him to simply recharge the RV's batteries. Sure enough, the system simply needed a few minutes to recharge, and functionality was restored. But we still have that awning issue. One Control instructs Dad to check for any obvious problems, but everything checked out. So One Control creates a case for Dad and sends it to LCI customer support, along with his VIN, contact info, and the latest diagnostic information for his RV. LCI quickly resolves the issue. Looks like Dad needs a replacement motor. One Control helps to search for the nearest RV service center. With connected diagnostics, the service center knows exactly what type of RV, awning, and problem Dad is having. The service center happens to have a mobile technician on hand who delivers the awning motor to the campsite and does a quick install, not costing the Thompsons any precious vacation time. After their trip, One Control stays in contact, reminding them when it's time for service checks, winterization, and alerting them with diagnostic issues. The app can also alert them with news of nearby rallies, discounts, events, and attractions. One Control keeps you connected. Visit www.lci1.com/One Control to see which current brands offer One Control.
So, not coincidentally, Thor just in late February, they signed a joint, so Thor is our largest customer. Thor signed a joint venture called TH2 that's committed to bringing digital connectivity and the sharing economy to RV owners around the world. So what is this actually going to do? It's kind of hard to see, but I'm going to read it real quick for you. Road trippers. So TH2 is going to have the ability to have a mobile platform to be able to plan trips. It's going to find campsites for you, not only in the United States, but around the world. It's going to have Cosmos as a digital platform for the RV customer relationship and fleet management. So you're going to be able to book rentals and stuff like that, a la Airbnb. You're going to see a lot more Airbnb type systems in the future. MyWay is a leader in peer-to-peer RV rentals. And then you've got CamperMate, that is New Zealand's and Australia's top camping app. So believe it or not, New Zealand and Australia is the third largest RV camping market worldwide. Europe is number 2. Australia and New Zealand's number 3. Thor invested, again, this was just announced a month and a half ago, $50 million into this joint venture. So again, it was not coincidental that we've been working on our digital products for the last 3 years, and Thor wants to capitalize as well. So we're now in the process of working with Thor to be able to bring our One Control product and combine it with what they're doing in their joint venture. They're really just getting going, but suffice it to say that all these products are going to be products that allow the camping experience to be much more enjoyable. You're going to be able to find where you want to go, where you want to camp. You're going to be able to get service. You're going to be able to rent an RV. And the future of the RV market is definitely more digital related when you look out the next 5 to 10 years. So kind of to look at trends that will affect the industry, these are the last few slides that we've got. First and foremost, I think we've talked a lot about making the product relevant for younger generations. Some of the things that we didn't talk about, auto leveling, getting old leveling on a travel trailer required you to crank out a scissor jack, largely how you change your tire out. Today's leveling system is a push button. Again, we feel like younger buyers do not want to do something that your dad or your grandpa used to have to do. Getting to a campground and being able to push buttons and get your campsite up and running as fast as possible and creating the enjoyment that much more quickly is something that we feel like is relevant for the younger generations. With the popularity of RVing in the United States, one of the trends will be the continued development of campgrounds throughout the United States. So the Outdoor Recreation Association, which includes RVIA, has been lobbying dollars to be able to build out not only our national parks, but also companies like Campground America, KOA, and all the other private campgrounds that are in existence. We're going to need more and more campgrounds to be able to facilitate the popularity of RVing in the United States. With that popularity of RVing in the United States creates a need for service centers to continue to be able to fix and keep RVs that you own on the road, up and running and on the road. We have things like autonomous vehicles and electric vehicles. Our take at this point is that autonomous vehicles really doesn't affect our industry. Almost 90% of the US market is not motorhomes. A lot of people think that motorhomes, the ones that you actually drive with a steering wheel, that you do not tow behind your car, that's only 10% of the RV market within the United States. 90% of the RVs sold in the United States are what we call towables. So those would either be fifth wheels towed behind a pickup truck or travel trailers that would be towed either behind a crossover vehicle or a SUV or a pickup truck. So we just don't think autonomous vehicles over the next 10 years would have much impact on our industry. However, electric vehicles, we think that we do believe that electric vehicles are going to become more of the norm over the next 10 years, but we still believe that combustion engines, albeit smaller, supercharged, either turbo and or supercharged engines like Ford and GM are currently coming out with, still will be around, still will have the power and the towing capacity to be able to tow the types of vehicles that we're making. And for those of you who didn't see Ford Motors earnings, I think either, was it yesterday? They're dropping all sedans with the exception of two over the next few years. They're dropping all the development of their sedan platform. They're focusing all their R&D dollars on pickup trucks and crossover vehicles. So I think they're number one in pickup truck sales worldwide, but their belief would be that crossover vehicles as well as pickup trucks would be where they're going to focus their R&D and their production development talents over the next 5 to 10 years. So We don't think the pickup truck, as some of the F-150, number one selling pickup truck in the United States, we don't think pickup trucks are going away anytime soon. We do feel like their engines will become smaller, like you're starting to see in Ford and GM. Smaller, but either turbocharged or supercharged. Higher fuel economy, but still the same power dynamics as the development of fuel economy engines that still have the power characteristics of what larger V8 and or diesel engines had in the past. The vehicle sharing, Airbnb, you could probably quickly look at this and say a threat. So, for those of you who say, yeah, I'd like an RV, but I really don't want to own one, I just want to rent one or grab one on Airbnb or some type of RV Airbnb version in the future, we feel like that's going back to the increase in millennial population over the next 10 years, the increase of Gen X and Gen Y over the next 10 years. If that will bring in more first-time campers to be able to rent an RV and truly enjoy that camping experience, we feel like that's actually a long-term positive to the RV industry, as opposed to looking at it that more rentals would decrease the amount of buyers within the RV industry. We actually think that further facilitating the rental market will have a long-term benefit by more people participating, because it's going to be easier to rent, and if renting leads to buying, we think that that's going to bring in more long-term buyers. We talked about digital. Digital for sure is going to be a key part of the RV of the future. I think not only the way we look at it, but we look at the cellular connected RV as a way to improve our customer service. Again, easier camping, less frustration, solving problems quicker, leads to a happier camper. Happier camper means that they're more likely to either camp again or trade up throughout their lifetime. The average RV, once they buy their first RV, the average RVer is 74% likely to trade up multiple times within their lifetime. So once we get them in the industry, they're 74% likely to buy multiples throughout their lifetime. So we just need to get them, and then usually we keep them for a long time. The industry, this is an industry problem as well as a Lippert problem. Our next slide would be trends that affects Lippert. But finding and attracting employees within Elkhart County is a problem today. It's going to be a problem 10 years from now. And we have to find ways to go into adjacent counties and adjacent states. Right now, one of the things that some of the industry participants, including Lippert, are doing, we now have 3 St. Joe County facilities. We've got, we just recently purchased one of the largest corporate offices, the old Mutual Bank building on Edison Parkway. That will become our new corporate office. We are leasing the old TJ Maxx distribution facility. That's one of the largest buildings outside of the tire rack. I think it's the second largest manufacturing building in all of northern Indiana. That's on Sample Street. We've been in that for 3 years. So again, St. Joe County, and then we recently bought the old AM General aftermarket facility, and that's in Mishawaka on Burkett Avenue. So 3 new huge facilities, St. Joe County, close to Elkhart, but South Bend is bigger. It's pulling from a different demographic. We're looking at white-collar employees, we're looking at production employees, and we feel like our customers as well are looking at other strategies like that. We've had Forest River that's put up a new manufacturing facility in Angola. We've invested in new plants down in Fort Wayne. So we're trying to still be close to home, so to speak, but within an hour or less than an hour's drive to be able to still be able to manage the facilities easily, but again, draw from a slightly demographic than Elkhart County. And again, solar and lithium ion, the industry is in the process of switching from old battery technology to lithium battery technology, as well as solar. So those are cool things that are going on that will be trends that will continue to make RVing over the next 10 years easier, to be able to camp really off the grid and still be able to power without having to have a gas generator on board within their unit. So lastly, trends that will affect Lippert Components. Again, we talked a lot about product development for the younger generations. We went, with our acquisition of IDS 3 years ago, we recognized probably 5 years ago that anything that created an easier camping experience for the RVer was going to be something that continued to gain in popularity, especially with younger buyers. So anything push button, anything home automation, and home automation, by the way, I mean, what we have in an RV largely is more functional and more product ready than what you might see in your, at Best Buy for your house. It's more packaged in terms of, turnkey. So it's really, we feel like we're on the leading edge of products like that. We need to find other. This kind of goes along the lines of our diversification within our company. Again, 2/3 RV, 1/3 non-RV. But we like to find large but niche industries. So not automotive size, but large like the RV industry, 600,000-700,000 units that we can be number one or number two. We feel like that's going to be a trend, but also a challenge as far as trying to find, what other niche industries are out there that Lippert Components can capitalize on. Today, we're 11,000 employees. By 2028, 10 years from now, we feel like we'll be at least 20,000 employees. We might even argue that 20,000 employees would be a 5-year goal. So we might even be talking about 30,000 employees. And how, as a company, do we keep the culture? Do we keep the small company feel intact that we had 20 years ago when I first started with the company, knew all 400 employees by first name? Today, it's no longer the same dynamic, and certainly with 20 or 30,000 employees, it is going to be even more difficult. And then finally, and again, this is common sense, but finally, as we've success brings problems, and as we look at Lippert Components and we look at the number of employees that we're going to need to be able to be successful, to continue to grow $5-10 billion over the next 5 to 10 years, we're starting to think about our newly introduced South Bend headquarters that we'll move into in September. We're starting to think about, do we need a satellite headquarters for things like IT and our digital type stuff? Do we need to have a satellite headquarters either in Chicago or some of the other tech locations, or even a full relocation of our headquarters outside of South Bend, because South Bend just truly isn't big enough to support the size company that we are. We want to stay close to our roots, but we also recognize that these are the trends and problems that we deal with as a company. And certainly production employees as well as the management level employees, if we continue to have success within the RV industry, if our customers continue to double down within Elkhart County, we're going to have to do things like continue to invest in automation projects to be able to, that tightness of the labor market within Elkhart County is a long-term situation that unfortunately doesn't seem to be changing anytime soon. And we have to be able to think about what that looks like, not only for our customers, but what does that look like for our own company. We're thinking about, really doubling down as far as CapEx goes into lean and automation projects. Again, we're already working on those things, but we really feel like the Lippert of the future is going to be much more automated. It's going to have many more lean employees that are going to be busy working on increasing efficiencies and lowering the need for the next couple thousand employees so that we don't struggle as much as the average company. So with that, that's the end of the presentation, and we're going to open it up to Q&A. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Ray Fraser. I'm an MBA student here. Thanks for the presentation. Just wanted to talk, my first question was on, you were looking at emerging trends and trying to figure out new markets you guys can enter into. The tiny home market seems to be one that's been growing in the past few years. What has your team figured out any synergies that might be possible for your company there?
Well, so a funny quick story. So my daughters, so I've got 3 daughters, 14, 11, and 9, and when they started watching the Tiny Home TV show, their jaws are dropping, and I'm looking at it with them. They're mesmerized. Younger kids seem to be mesmerized by these tiny home type situations. But really, when you look at it, it's an RV. I look at it like an RV. And so they might be taking a school bus, or they might be making a site-built, small site-built house, but really it's an RV. If that trend continues, right now it's only a few thousand units being built, so it's very niche. But we have lots of products that would be able to go into it, from electronics to appliances to windows, doors. Lots of things that could go into that. But I think taking a step back and looking at the phenomenon of tiny homes and even a TV show that is popular enough for people to watch, I think that bodes well for the RV industry, because really, again, tiny homes and RVs, I feel like, are somewhat synonymous. And so if people like the idea of a tiny home, they're going to like the idea of an RV. They might not have stepped inside of an RV yet. They might be doing a little bit different style, like the tiny home style. But I think that bodes well for people to say, I like a tiny home, but maybe I don't want to do it myself, so I'll just buy an RV. So again, good long-term demographics. I think that, it's a TV show, it's popular, people are doing it, and it's very similar to the RV product that's being built today, albeit maybe a little bit smaller.
You've got a room full of a lot of young and really talented folks. Pitch them on working in the industry. The recreational vehicle industry is, from my perspective, a really fun place to be. Tell them about that part of it.
So first and foremost, again, recruiting pitch here, but so you gotta like Northern Indiana. And I would assume not just the college, but you got to like the weather, you got to like the small town feel. We live, by the way, our family lived in Elkhart County for the last 20 plus years, and we just recently moved over to Granger. Our kids are going to South Bend schools, they're going to St. Joe and Stanley Clark. But we feel like, in part, our company's migrating over to South Bend, so we're going to be I call it an Elkhart County, St. Joe County type company over the next 5 years. But you've got, I think, a really cool part of Northern Indiana is, and probably a lot of Notre Dame people don't understand this, but again, in my slide, you got 4 multi-billion-dollar companies that all relatively have the same challenges that Lippert has. So you've got great companies with great profitability, great prospects of growing over the next 10 years, and they all need good employees. I'm not trying to. I want all the best and brightest at Notre Dame, not the other 3. But in all seriousness, I think the industry is something that everybody should consider, and the fact that as we've recruited people If I go back 20 years, one of the hardest things about recruiting people to Lippert Components was Northern Indiana, to be honest with you. We started out in Goshen. I don't know how much time you guys have spent in Goshen, but I felt like I was in Siberia when I first moved to Goshen. We had one plant. We had 60 employees in that. We were a no-name, and it was lonely, in the early years of the Lippert journey, of my Lippert career. Today we're well known. We're doing things, on TV, and we're doing things in the community. People are seeking us out today, where before we really had to sell them on why they should join such a small company that was a no-name. And coming out of prestigious universities, whether it's Miami of Ohio or Notre Dame, a lot of people, including myself, didn't think that my career would be in manufacturing or would be in something like that. But what I can tell you is that it's been very fulfilling. The people within Northern Indiana, the people that we work with, one of the coolest parts about the company in the industry is you live and work with people that you interact with. You see them at soccer practice, you see them at church, you see them at the grocery store. It's such a small community, and again, 90% of the customers and the activity happen around here. So it's very easy to establish relationships, and hopefully the best and the brightest will be successful because it's such a condensed market. So, we started about a year ago with the engineering school here at Notre Dame, doing some of the similar type things. We want to partner with a school like Notre Dame because those challenges over the next 10 years that we're going to face, we're going to need to hire more and more students from schools like Notre Dame that already know what it's like, what a Notre Dame winter looks like in the, throughout the frozen tundra of 7 or 8 or 9 months. In a small town like South Bend or even smaller in Elkhart, those are the biggest challenges that we had 20 years ago of keeping a college graduate that thought, their career plans would be to go to, consulting firms, accounting firms, go to places like New York and Chicago and Boston, and that was their calling, to go to work for prestigious companies. That's what I thought when I was graduating from college. I had one other job that I quit after 9 months because I couldn't stand it. I worked for a consulting firm up in Chicago. And I would encourage anybody that is either in the interviewing process or the recruiting process to seek out smaller, privately held companies that might not be recruiting on Notre Dame's campus. Network with as many people as you can. Try to find job interviews that you might not otherwise take. They might not sound sexy. They might not sound glamorous. But some of these job opportunities are the way that you can make a name for yourself. You come into we're not a small organization anymore, but we're still looking for top talent. And I think that if you like Northern Indiana, or you're from Northern Indiana, you at least got 4 multi-billion-dollar companies right 20 minutes to the east of here to be able to interview with. And they're not hiring droves of Notre Dame grads, all 4 of us, but certainly I think over the next 10 years you'll see a trend to the 4 companies recruiting more and more on Notre Dame's campus.
Why don't you hire Notre Dames at the moment?
Why don't we what?
Why don't you hire a lot of Notre Dames at the moment? What is the reason? It's like a little bit different qualification or what?
Why didn't we hire, I'm sorry?
Lots of Notre Dames at the moment.
Notre Dame students. Well, so we did Braxton Cave, as an example, former ND football player, is one of our employees. I think I think the expectation, again, it goes back to when I started out at Lippert, I worked on the production line for a year as a welder. I came home with dirt underneath my fingernails for a year. I had a welding hood on. I talked to guys next to me that were not making very much money, but you learn what makes the company tick. I personally feel like, and this isn't a knock against Notre Dame, but I personally feel like college graduates feel like something like that, let's say whether it would be a manager at Starbucks or working as a welder at Lippert for the first year is beneath them. And I think that Notre Dame strikes me as having maybe towards the high end of that perception of, hey, that's beneath my pedigree. And like I said, if you want to be successful, either as an entrepreneur starting your own business, or if you want to work your way up through an organization, and that was one of our core values, is being humble, positive attitude. You telling me as your boss, I don't want to do that, that's a negative attitude. We're not looking for people like that. We're looking for people that say, look, Scott, I will do whatever it takes to be successful within your organization because I want to win. I want to help the team win. I'm a team player. I'll do whatever it takes. Those are the types of people that we're looking for. And I think so far when we have interviewed people within Notre Dame, and not just Notre Dame, but other schools. I hate to just say it's a Notre Dame problem because it's really not. But I think that there's lots of people that are successful coming out of college that get highly recruited, and you've got job offers that might be $100,000 to $200,000 offers depending on what your discipline is, and it's hard to fit into that mold to be able to say, hey, I'll accept lower pay for a company that has the right core values that I share in, and I'll work my way up from the bottom to be successful within the organization. We're different than a lot of bigger companies. We don't wait. You're not going to have to wait 10 to 20 years to work your way up into a senior management position. If you show success within the first 3 to 5 years, you might be a vice president of the company at 27 years old. I was running one of 10 business units, as basically I was running my own company within Lippert at age 25. And it wasn't about the company, me needing to work at the company for 10 years or 15 years to get my feet wet. So I'm 47 years old right now. I feel like I have the experience of maybe a 55 or 65-year-old executive because I started so early within getting the experience that I wanted to get, that I was yearning to get. I wanted to come to work for a small company that would promote me quickly based on the hard work and the humbleness that I had coming into the organization.
That was the best recruiting pitch I ever heard.
And if there's no other questions, I mean, to speak to that, and again, it sounds very cliche, but our company would not have grown from $80 million 20 years ago to $2.7 billion today without that recruiting pitch resonating with a lot of people. That pitch, our pitch was 23 years ago, was 3 things. You're going to be paid greater than your peers quickly. So number 1, you're going to be paid more than your peers. Number 2, you're going to work with a lot of young, energetic, positive people that are passionate about winning, that want to kill the competitor every day, show up to work to kill the competitor. And number 3, you're going to have fun with all the people that you work with. And life's too short to go to work for a company that you don't like the people and you don't buy into the culture. So you're going to have fun, you're going to get paid more than your peers, and you're going to be promoted. You're going to get more responsibility in an early age within your career at Lippert. And those types of things resonate with a lot of people. And so we got a lot of leaders, we got a lot of hungry people that totally bought into, I'm going to be paid a lot, I'm going to be given a lot of responsibility, I'm going to work with a lot of fun, energetic, aggressive people that are just like me, and we're going to have a ball together. And I think that's really the secret sauce of what has given us our success over the last 20 years. So we're blessed that we've been able to recruit underneath those three principles, and those same three apply today. It's a little bit different scale with the size company we are today, but that still holds true.
On that inspiring note, please join me in thanking our speaker, Mr. Scott Mereness.